Hello everyone, this is Evan Abrams, and in this After Effects tutorial, we're going to make a Twitter-like interface that'll allow you to show off a lot of the functions of Twitter without just screen capturing the thing. It looks very nice, has a lot of cute details in there, and I hope you like it. Let's have a look at what we're making. Let's start by making sort of the avatar icon. Let's make that. So it's important to name your compositions. Let's name this ID avatar. That'll work fine. Making a HD TV 1080 24 frames a second, and the duration is quite long. So when you're making component parts, you might want to make them quite long, or think about making them longer than you might need, just so they don't run out, and then you have to fix them up later. So I've already decided that I want my Twitter icon to kind of pop on. So I'm going to make a circle and go up here to the ellipse tool, double click on that, twirl into the ellipse path. I'm going to unlink the size, set both of those to 0 because they should start at 0. Set a keyframe, link them back up again, go ahead about 12 frames, and then we're going to set the size to about 150. And the way I want it to animate, I'm going to go into the graph editor, I'm going to grab both these points, I'm going to make sure I'm looking at a value graph, I'm going to ease them, I'm going to pull this handle one way, push the other handle up, so we end up with a shape that looks something like this. So you've got it coming up really high and then coming back down, which gives us this nice pop on and settle. Then we do need a fill, we don't need a stroke, and I don't really care what color this is, because I'm going to use this as the alpha of this. So this is going to define the visible space of this particular symbol. So I'm going to change its mode to a stencil alpha. So now anything I put under it, like for example, a big rectangle. I can just make a rectangle, I give the rectangle a fill, and if the fill is like a green color, then I can put that below, and this is kind of acting like a stamp to say that's the only place you can see things. So I'm just going to change its color to be fuchsia maybe, and I'm just going to lock it so I don't accidentally bump it, and then we can call this the background. If your Twitter icon, if you're making something similar to logos or similar to something else, you can just put all that between the background and the alpha and it'll all be fine. For us, I'm going to make a little person by grabbing the ellipse tool again. Maybe we'll use sort of a darker fill color. Don't need a stroke on here, not at all. Just double click on there to make that, hit the U key twice, and then this will be like the body perhaps. So it can be down kind of like here, cool, and then snap it like that, and then we'll duplicate this, and this will be like the head. So I'm really just gonna scale that down, put it up here, maybe a bit bigger even, and then make it a little bit lighter, like this, a lot less saturated, like that. Awesome, that's pretty fun. Maybe this body needs to be a little bit bigger. Up. So how do I want them to animate? I kind of want it to look like these are kind of standing up a little bit. So I'm going to hit P to call up their position. I'm going to set keyframes for both of those. And I think they should keep animating well after this is already popped on. So this is the resting state, set keyframes here. And in the beginning, I think I'll just move this down like this and move this over like this. And so it's kind of like they're standing up a little bit. And then I'm just going to ease where they come in. We're going to look at a speed graph instead. And then we're just going to push these handles, push them so they're coming in fast and then slowing down. And then we just make sure that they are between the alpha and the background. And we end up with this nice little pop on. I think that's pretty good. Maybe let's make it quite a bit brighter, brighter, less and less saturated. Awesome. And this will be our avatar icon. The other little icons we want are the like, reply, retweet, and message. So let's make a new comp for each of those. So let's make the reply, and same settings as the first thing we already did. And to draw all these things, I like to draw in After Effects. So we're going to go View, Show Grid, View, Snap to Grid. And now I'm just going to turn on also the title and action safe. I'm really only interested in this nice little cross here that it gives me right in the middle. And I want to try to keep all of these icons I'm going to be making about the same size. So for the reply icon, I know that it's kind of like a speech bubble. So let me get the rectangle tool. I don't need a fill. I do need a stroke. The stroke is going to be pretty minimal. It might be like 2 or 3 pixels, kind of small. So double click the rectangle here, hit UU on this thing. So we're just going to bring it way down. It's going to be roughly 80 by 80. So it's going to be close to that, I think. And inside the rectangle, we are going to make this round it off. Maybe it's going to be a little bit larger than that, maybe a 4 pixel kind of deal here. So we've got these lines and we've got a rectangle path. It's not quite the bubble that I'm interested in. So what I'm going to do is right click, convert it to a Bezier path, which means I can now grab these points. I can grab the points. I can move them wherever I like. So I can move them like this. And I can also add some points. So I can just start adding in some points like this. Bam, move a little point down here. Cool. Pull this handle a bit like that. Grab this handle, holding down Alt like this. Maybe it should just go straight up like that. Kabam. So now we get this kind of thing. Maybe push this, and I'm good with that. I'm going to go into the stroke. We're going to go with round caps and round joints. So we get this kind of a look, and I think we're there. We've made sort of a speechy bubble kind of looking thing. Perfect. So the other thing to do with this is make it animate on. Now you could just move the anchor point and scale it up. That's fine, but scaling that way will cause the stroke to be thinner when it's smaller. So what I want to do is go into the contents here, twirl open the rectangle, take the stroke and drag it outside of the group, reorganize the group, and then I'm going to animate this thing using the properties of the group independent of the scale, not the properties of the layer. So with transform rectangle 1 selected, grab your pan behind tool, move that point down here like this. And now we're going to set keyframes for the scale and the rotation. I'm going to move ahead, maybe 20 frames. This will be where it ends. So we set keyframes there. Go back to the beginning here, and we're just going to have the rotation might be 90, somewhere between 90 and 45. Bring the scale all the way down to 0. Neat. And then we're just going to easy ease these, going into the graph editor, grabbing that influence handle, giving it a pull. And now we end up with something nice as this thing just kind of comes on, and it seems to grow rather than scale. So it feels like it's coming on, not quite using the scale, even though we're definitely still using the scale. I think that's pretty good. That's the reply icon. So now we could let's do the like icon. So if we use the like icon, and we still want to be inside this 4x4 kind of grid here, we're going to just draw using the pen tool to draw the shape we want. So a heart kind of goes from here to over here to here. Perfect. Now I'm going to use the convert vertex tool just to convert it up here. Push, converting, pushing, moving stuff around, getting it very heart-like, and snap into the grid. Great. That's perfect. Twirl in here, twirl into the contents, twirl into the shape. Let's get into the stroke here, and we'll get a round cap and a round joint. Now let's also add a trim paths into here, and that trim paths is going to animate from 0, an ending of 0, 20 frames in, 100% on. Let's ease that, go to the graph editor, pull the handle, so we end up with half a heart coming on, nice and slow. Awesome. We can now add to this a repeater, put the repeater below the trim path here, and the repeater should be making 2 copies. Transform the repeater, shouldn't be doing anything with the position. Instead, it should be scaling. It should be scaling -100. So it's flipping it over like that. Play it back. Now we got the 2 sides of the heart coming in. If you want to edit your shape, you can just edit the original one here, and then it'll get slightly different. Perfect. So we've got that coming on. Maybe as the heart comes together, we should have a little heartbeat, have that kind of happen. So just like we did before, let's move the stroke outside of this group, and let's animate the scale in the transform shape one, animate the scale of this shape independent of its stroke. So set a keyframe. Let's go ahead 2 frames, go down to 90, go ahead 3 frames, go up to 120, go ahead 4 frames, go down to 95, go ahead 5 frames, go back to 100, and then we just ease all of those and have a look at how that kind of looks. Bump, bump. So there we go, bump, bump. You get kind of a nice little heart bump, and I'm happy with that. We got reply, we got like, now we need, I think, direct message. Get your DMs going, it's important. So let's use the old rectangle tool, double click, same thing we did before. Go into the rectangle path, edit down the size here to be 80,80, round it off at 20, awesome. We can add a trim paths into this using the trim paths to go from 0, and then 20 frames later, we could have it be at 100%. Let's have a look at how that's going. So it's animating from this point, coming all the way around and finishing. Cool. We also need a little chevron for the, make it look like a mail envelope. But we should, start off by taking the stroke here, fun time stroke, and we're gonna go round, round. Let's put the trim paths into that rectangle group. Okay, and now we are going to draw the little chevron. So just take this path here, and then we're gonna go click, 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 and we've done it, we have drawn it. Again, twirl in here, get into the stroke, round, round, round those off. And then this one is going to start drawing on pretty much when this one stops drawing on. So we can go in here, we can go into add the trim paths, doing the exact same thing. Trim paths is gonna go from 0, and in 10 frames, it'll be all the way on. I'm just gonna hit U to call up just these keyframes. We can look at how that goes. It's not super exciting, so let's ease the last and first keyframes, and that's feeling a little bit better. I'm digging how that's coming in. I think that's pretty nice because it looks to be continuing the line that we're drawing. You might even want to sort of increase that a little bit. I have this one starting at 10, so it goes from here to there. And that can kind of just smooth the transition. Like, reply, DM, the last but not least is the retweet icon. So hitting OK, the retweet is gonna be 2 arrows that kind of go around each other. So again, we're gonna making the rectangle, rectangle path. We know we want this to be 80 by 80 or close to there, roundness of 20. Right click on the parametric path and convert it to a Bezier path, awesome. And then select by clicking one of the lines, right click on the line, go mask and path shape, and uncheck closed, which will remove it. Then we can remove these and drag these handles. Now we have this wonderful kind of U shape, and we're going to, of course, as you know, add trim paths. We've been doing it all along. We're gonna be trimming the path from 0. Maybe it takes 30 frames to make this happen. Easing these things, just like we did all the other times, pushing the handles, awesome. So that's coming on like that. We're also gonna animate the start. The start can begin at 0, but I think it should end around 45 maybe. Maybe, we'll see, we might tweak that. And you kind of want this to have the same shape in the graph as before. Got this line going around. Big thumbs up to that. This is the line, rename that, and we need an arrow. And the arrow, I think we're gonna use rectangle tool again, twirl into the rectangle, get into that rectangle, change the size of the rectangle down. Maybe it's only 20, cool. I'm gonna add a trim paths to this as well. This trim paths is going to go from 25. So the start and end are at 25%, setting keyframes, moving ahead. So we're at sort of 30 frames here. And then the start will go to 0, the end will go to 50. We end up with this nice wedge kind of shape. You should go into its stroke and make sure that it's got round caps, round joints as well, and we want it to move following along this path. So we call up its position, hitting P, and then we go into the path, we select the path, we copy, Command C, and then just paste it onto the position, and then we line up these keyframes here, we line them up the first and last to be here, and we're just gonna need to go layer, transform, auto orient, and we're gonna auto orient it along the path, so it's always turning to match the path it's on. Might need to adjust its rotation a little bit though, so that it's, I think -45 might do it. Okay, that's looking good to me. The other thing we need to do is adjust the anchor point to 10 and 10 so that it's right here on the point. Awesome. Hit U to call up its keyframes, ease these last keyframes, go into the graph editor, adjust the handle, and now if we play it back, we've got this arrow coming on like so. Kind of does a little weird tweak at the end. We're just going to go in here, we're going to select this last keyframe position, we're going to grab the Convert Vertex tool, and we're just gonna click and drag out so that we can control its handle and make sure that it's going exactly how we want. Perfect. So this is coming on. I think that looks good. We now need 2 of them, so we can grab these, name them correctly as line and arrow. We can grab them, duplicate them, move them apart, create a new null object, which by default comes in the center. Grab these 2 things, parent it to the null, grab the null, rotate it 180 degrees. And now when we play this back, whee, I think that is working out for me. I think we've got all of our little icons done. Let's put it together. So we'll be creating a new composition. This is going to be the tweet, the big tweet. You don't need the action safe, you don't need the grid. This is going to work out quite wonderfully. Let's make the background rectangle. So we can just double click the rectangle like we've been doing, give it a fill, take its stroke away, awesome. And the fill is going to be a nice bright color, hue 0, saturation 0, brightness like 97 perhaps. The rectangle, and inside the rectangle path, we're going to change its size to be something like 0,280 to start with. And then we're just going to move ahead a few frames and set another keyframe at 1200. So it's getting larger. I don't want it to expand from the middle though. In fact, I need to control its position based on its size. So I'm going to hold down Alt, click on the position here, pick whip from the position to the size, and then divide by 2. And that's going to make sure that it's always coming out of the corner here. Now I can just use my Align panel to stick this back in the middle of the composition. And this is animating on like so. I'm now going to go into these keyframes. I'm going to ease them up. I'm going to go into the graph editor, grab those, edit a value graph, just zoom in on that value graph so you can see what I'm doing. I'm dragging the handles of this red section here, of the red line, so that's going out further than we need, and then relaxing. Woo, just like that. Big burst, and then it's coming back in. And we might even just push the handle down like this, and see how that looks. Boom. That's a little bit extreme. Doesn't need to be like that. Less, like this. And I think we can safely bring out our ID avatar. We can just drop that out here, and it'll be over here in kind of the upper right corner right there. I think that looks good. Just time it so that that looks good. So now we need some information. We need a text tool. We can just click out there and start typing in the name of this person doing the tweeting. I'm going to use my name. Let's go Evan. We're going to use Helvetica Nue, this particular one, so that I can have access to the boldness. It's going to be totally black, and it's going to be just like this. Use text size of 50, I think is appropriate. And let's just kind of line stuff up here. So maybe this is around here. I think that's a good spot for this to be coming in. So if that's where my name comes in, I'm going to duplicate that, shift it ahead, double click on there, and go at EC Abrams, actually spelling it like that. And we're just going to adjust it to be not as dark, certainly, maybe at 50% darkness. Adjust it a little bit there, and instead of bold, it's going to be just regular. Regular seems fine. Yeah, right around there. Cool. And the other components are going to be sort of when the tweet happened. That might be now, for example. Might be a minute ago, but you can write that information in. I guess that information will be positioned around here, perhaps. And then the other thing is like a dot in between them. So we're just going to grab the ellipse tool. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. When I double click the ellipse tool, so I twirl into the ellipse, twirl in here, set its size down to 0. I want to be able to just eyedropper the fill color from there. Go back to the beginning here, and that dot is going to expand from a size of 0 up to a size of 10. We're going to do that old trick where we ease these, go into the graph editor, editing the value graph, so we get this pop kind of thing that we've been doing this whole time. So it's popping on like that. Position it, between, in this order, between the now and the E.C. Abrams, or whatever word you're using. And then we're just going to make this right here. Boom. So we got that going on. We should animate these things on. And I'm going to do that by animating two things, their position and a mask around them. So grab all these things, hit P, set keyframes on their position, and we're going to go ahead 1, 2, so 40 whole frames, set keyframes. This is where I want them to end up. And now go back to the beginning. We can just grab all these and we can just shift them a bunch of pixels over like that. Perfect. Ease their landing. Go into the graph editor, go into that speed graph, grab those handles, pull the handles. So they're all kind of coming in like that. Awesome. We're also going to use some masks. I'm just going to grab my mask, make sure I've selected one of the layers, draw around that, go into the mask path, setting keyframe for that, easing the final keyframe, and at the beginning, it's going to be showing nothing. So it's going to go like this, making sure the first one is linear. Again, same kind of motion. So it's coming on like that, and I think it can come on faster. It should come on, it should animate on before it's done moving. So we'll move it like so. Grab these, speed those up just a little bit, like that. Awesome. I'm now going to copy the mask, copy, go to the start, paste it on these other things. So that's good. I'm going to paste it on the now, paste it there. I'm just going to go in here, hitting U to call up the keyframes, and I'm just going to make sure, because this is too much, it can just end there, and really it can start, it can start here, so it's, revealing it. Revealing it doesn't need to reveal so much. Kind of tighten that up. Awesome. Same thing with this one. We're just going to tighten that up to be like here. Neat. I'm going to tighten this one up here so it starts actually at the beginning. Awesome. And so all of those are coming on, and we want to stagger them so that one comes on and then the other comes on maybe here, and then these ones come on like this and like so, and they can come on after other things. So this and then these other things kind of spill out, and they can go behind the avatar like that. So we've got our who, what, when, and now we need some content for this person to tweet. What kind of things will they tweet out into the world? And grab the text tool, and instead of just clicking, we're going to click and drag. We're going to click and drag to create a nice big area. And we can make the area as long as we'd want, but you have to go into the paragraph here, make sure it's over at the left. And let's, learning is fun with @PremiumBeat and hashtag After Effects tutorials. I heart this stuff emoji winky face. And the color of this, it's going to be, it could be black. I think it's just a little bit of a lighter gray. And again, we're using Helvetica New, and we're just going to sort of squish this down like so. So I think it's 50 and 55 should get us where we want to be. Awesome, like that. Speaking of coloring, you should probably recolor this stuff so that you've got like, this should be like a blue color, shouldn't it? Shouldn't it? There we go, nice bright blue like that. I think 210, perfect. And then this should also be that color, I do believe. We can just sample like that. So we've got that going on. So it should start animating on probably after those things have started. So it'll start its journey here. And we're going to use in the effects and presets, the typewriter preset. So we just double click on that typewriter, bring that out, and you can see in here that in the text, if I hit U, it'll bring up these two keyframes here that are already controlling things being written on. What I want to do is go to where that first sentence happened. I'm going to set a keyframe there. I'm going to go to where another period happened. set a keyframe there. Let's move ahead. There's another one, setting it there, moving ahead, and that's the final one. I'm going to take those, I'm going to easy ease them so it's like people are taking a break. And then we're just going to space these out a little bit more, kind of like that, so it's a little bit more natural the way it's writing on. Oh, I definitely missed a bit there, so let me touch that up real quick, just like that. You might want to space this out even more. Okay, and that's working out for me. Something else that's happening, though, is that once we reach 2 lines and then we reach 3 lines, we're going to have icons down here that are going to get in the way. So what we want to do is make sure that we are expanding this layer here as the text is expanding. We can do that with expressions, but I prefer to do it with keyframes just because this is also driven by keyframes. So you go in here, you hit U, you bring up the size, you set a keyframe. I want to set a keyframe just a little bit before it's needed. So then we go to when it is needed, and we just expand this. And I'm just going to expand it by, just going to add 60 to that, right? So this is set to 55. We could probably set that to 60 pixels, meaning when it needs 60 more pixels, we are expanding to give it 60 more pixels, and maybe just give it 5 frames to make that happen. Easy ease those, grab the handles, pull them so that it's going nice and fast as that it's expanding. Cool. And I think we only need to expand it the one time, but we're going to find out when we add in the other icons. So the first thing I want to do is have something that's going to control where those icons are. So I'm going to make a new null object. I'm going to parent that to our background rectangle. And if you hold down Shift when you parent, it'll send it to the anchor point of that layer. Perfect, right there. That's right where I want it. And now I'm going to control its position by hitting P, holding Alt, and we're going to write an expression, a kind of a fancy expression. And part of this expression is going to be driven by the size over here. So the expression is x equals 0, semicolon, y equals pick whip, the height here, the 340 number, semicolon, and in the end, put a couple square brackets, x comma y, and hit return. Now what that's going to do is it's going to move this to be down here all the time. So no matter how this thing goes up or down, then that's where it will be. So now we need to bring out our like, our retweet, our reply, our DM, bring those bad boys out into frame. Cool. Scale them down so they're appropriate. About 50%, I think, should do it. Parent them to the null object, and now let's move them where they need to go. So let's just move them all together as a group, moving them down here, moving them right here. Now we can sort of grab them and move them apart. So I think the DM is going to be moving the furthest away. Awesome. So now we got all these icons out here. Those are coming on. We should sort of stagger how those come on. Maybe stagger them the other way so they're going left to right, the way we read things. That's always a good strategy. So we got those coming on. That's fun. And as you can see, they move to get out of the way when the box expands, which is exactly what we're interested in. In fact, we could have the box expand twice just because I think that's a little bit crowded for where it needs to be. So the first time it expands is going to be near here. And then the second time it expands, the second time we need to expand is going to be around here. So we can set another keyframe, move ahead, adjust this up to be even bigger, grab those handles, push them like so, and then have a look at how that goes. And it just goes down like that. It's perfect. Boom. And so this is adjusting right along with it. There's another feature that every good Twitter feed requires, and I think that feature is that it needs a little counter, so you can see how many people liked, retweeted, all that good stuff. To make that counter, I just make a text layer. I click out there. The text layer is going to be 35 pixels. That's how big I'd like the texts to be. And then I just go 1, and then I just go 1, return 2, return 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, making as many as you need, as many as you think you need. going all the way down. You get all this text here with a 60 pixel difference between each of them. So if we just solo that, and let's make it, a totally black kind of color here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to twirl in here. I'm going to animate the position. Then I'm going to edit that position that I just changed. I'm going to edit that to start at, say, 60. I'm going to move ahead, set it to 0, move ahead, set it to minus 60, move ahead, set it to minus 120, for example. And grab those, ease them, grab those curves, pull them like so. So this is scrolling up. And then I just take that layer, I grab my mask tool, and I just draw a rectangle right around, where that needs to be. You might need to expand it out till it touches something, and then just squish it back down like there. So now it's kind of scrolling through the numbers as you need. So we're going to take that and we're just going to kind of line it up with the heart here, like there. And maybe that starts doing its thing, eventually, maybe after the tweet has actually been written. And it should, I think, be parented to the null object as well, so it moves along with everything. And you can duplicate and expand that as needed. And now you've got one full tweet completed, which is pretty good. It's a little bit more work than actually tweeting things, which takes as much time as it does to think. But if you've enjoyed this, maybe you'll tweet about it using the hashtag After Effects. Call out PremiumBeat, call out myself. It's great, but that is how you do it. I've been Evan Abrams for PremiumBeat. PremiumBeat is the best source for all of your music sound effects needs. Maybe lots of bleeps and whoops. Get some of those in there. Get some excellent music to go along with your projects, and learn a lot of awesome stuff. So head over to PremiumBeat.com, get onto the blog, The Beat, over there. It's really good. You can see tutorials from myself and other people, also on the PremiumBeat YouTube channel. You should subscribe to that. And if you do, we'll see you around for another one. I've been Evan Abrams. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.